Good afternoon, everybody. I remind all councillors and everyone present that your image and what you say will be broadcast live, so please be mindful of your actions and your comments. And avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note that a recording of this meeting will be retained online and in council's archives. Please turn your mobile phones off or switch them to silent, and filming and photography are not permitted in the meeting. Anyone observed to be filming the meeting may be asked to leave. I now declare the meeting 3. A request was received from Councillor Daniels to attend this meeting by audio-visual link in accordance with 2.1 of the Code of Meeting Act. I'll be moving a procedural motion that the committee approves this request. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Neil, put the motion. All those voting in favour, raise your hand. Unanimous. Just to note, there are some other councillors online, Councillor Castles, and councillors in the room as well that are non-voting members. A warm welcome to everyone in attendance, and we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play. We pay our respect to the Darkinjung country and elders past and present. We recognise the continued connection to these lands and the waterways, and extend this acknowledgement to the homelands and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. We have an apology from the Mayor, McKenna. Anybody else have any apologies? That's it.
So would the apologies be noted?
Second. I think we need to do a motion, but sure. We're going to do disclosure of conflicts now. Could everybody please note if they have any declarations?
Conflicts of interest to declare.
There were no conflicts.
Conflicts declared, Madam Chair.
Nothing to declare.
And Councillor Daniels?
Nothing to declare.
And myself, nothing to declare. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Wright, a seconder. Councillor Neil. All those in favour? Unanimous. Councillor Castles.
Yes, Madam Chair. I think that we've sort of decided with these committees that even councillors who are not voting members also, as they will take part in discussion, perhaps should declare a conflict if they have one. Apologies if that's incorrect, but that's my understanding.
Sure. Councillor Castles, do you want to declare anything?
No, I have nothing to declare.
Perfect. Okay. Councillor Walsh.
Oh, sorry, nothing to declare.
Councillor McGregor.
No, nothing.
Perfect. Okay. There we go. Thanks, Councillor Castles.
No problem.
So I think we've already done our vote for the minutes, and that was unanimous. So we will now move to the items to be resolved. I will be putting forward that we star a few of the items, 1.6 and 1.8. Does anybody wish to star any of the other items?
Chair, to be, sorry, I'm on. Be clear, I suppose. By starring, we're going to discuss or we're not discussing.
Discuss them.
I see it. So I want to do 1.5.
Okay, 1.5, 6 and 8. Anybody for 1.7?
I'm in trouble pulling up the agenda.
McDonald's Road.
Okay. We've already started 1.5 to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to move 1.7 on block? Okay, perfect. Seconder, right. Those in favour? Unanimous? Director Forrest Walgoff on 1.5.
Thank you, Chair. In relation to item 1, standard capital works report, at the last meeting, so that we're not going to do the presentation with presenting the same sort of information that was included in the report. And the report is provided for information. Any other questions?
Councillor Adrian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was on the animal care facility. According to the notes, the DA has been claimed, which is good news. Well done on that. Construction expected to start next financial year, so 26-27. Seems a bit long away. Obviously, once you've got a DA, you've still got to finalise construction certificates and things like that. But I would have thought some of that might have already been underway, and I would hope that we could start it at least sometime towards in this financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Eden. I'll start with a comment, and if Mr. Ross would like to add anything more. However, there is still a procurement process that would be undertaken, such a large project. These things, if they sometimes are going ahead of schedule, we can bring it forward at a quarterly review. But at this time, with all the works that we've got to deliver approximately a $320 million program, it does take resources in relation to.
I understand that, Director, but this facility expected to be actually finished by about now. It's been significantly delayed and got the problem. And I know Councillor Neil's keen on this project as well. We have animals and staff in quite substandard conditions. I understand at Erina, whenever it rains, the water goes through the facility. People have to wear gumboots. So it's not a very good scenario. So I guess all I'm doing is stressing that, and I think all of council laws at least been on this project.
I understand that. I don't know if there are to that.
Yeah, with regards to the timing, Chair, it's the next part is the procurement phase. It's actually a design and construct contract that we're going for. So we go through with a multi-stage, engage successful opponent in that process, then undertake the design, stakeholder engagement, finalise that process before rescue, and that's the anticipated timing at this stage. As suggested by Director Bolgos, if ways of opportunities to accelerate and bring things forward as we can. It's just that's the schedule and the planning.
Is there any scope to make it anything?
Yeah, we can accelerate content and do different things, but it's that's at a cost as well to the project. So got various things that we can do, but then there's also obviously resourcing for the project manager. So if we accelerate that, we tend to try to level our workload on our project managers. So when we've got something like design, something like construction, something like that, so it sort of creates that time to resource constraint because we're maybe putting too much construction on that resource at that time. It's also a cost to bring anything forward. The contractors have to put staff on it, or they have to try to get reference off from other consultants to sort of bring that job forward. So that's.
Is there any option to do it themselves rather than design and construct
facility? We've got a lot of specialist resources in house, but not necessarily in that space for that type of project.
Councillor Castles?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So obviously there is going to be a bit of a wait for this facility to be, up and running, full of animals and humans, etc. And I actually, listening to what Councillor Eaton said, and Councillor Eaton and I don't necessarily always agree, but on this matter, I definitely think, he's definitely hit the nail on the head. What are we? are we still making sure or making improvements to our current animal care facilities, which clearly do have some issues? I realise there are constraints, so that we're not ending up in a situation where they deteriorate to a point where they're really unsuitable for humans and animals. I'd just like some comment on that from the director, if possible.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Castles. Look, if we're going down the detail of individual projects, it is something that we may have to take on notice. Look, in relation to, the comments around walking gumboots, I do attend Erina depot and work from there, at least one day a week, and the facility is fine. It's when I see them walking the dogs, I certainly, there's sometimes I've got gumboots on in relation to that. If we've got to understand, if we accelerate something else has got to drop off. So Mr. Ross has identified the resource levelling in relation to a significant capital works program of $320 million. If that we want to change something else, that is it's certainly possible, but we might have to move things out to another year to bring this one forward. So I just stress that is a concern, to be able to undertake that with a program that we're delivering. So they do take a fair bit of time looking at trying to make sure they can deliver, and there's always some changes. I understand the urgency, and if we can anyway accelerate it and bring it forward through a quarterly adjustment, it's noted by the staff and the comments made by councillors.
Madam Chair, maybe we could look at having a further report on any mechanism for bringing it forward to the next meeting. To be in 2 months' time, I think, wouldn't it? Is it automatically? So that should give you enough time to have a look at if there could be anything
There
done.
may be something that's a lower priority that can be pushed back and this come forward. I'm not sure exactly what timeline it's competing on, but there might be.
There's usually approximately 400 other projects that we're doing, and it becomes challenging.
Tetris.
Councillor Neil, but if that's the wish of the committee, that's certainly something that we can do, or maybe it's an alternate suggestion that can come to this committee in relation to a workshop or something like that. So I think it'll be difficult to manage projects via committee, in my opinion.
Sure.
Is that, sorry, I haven't been closely following the discussion, but is there an opportunity to stage the overall project? Like ease? Or is that not?
My understanding, at least, is that, actually based on my experience, sorry, is that with a D&C contract, there's time to draft the contract itself, time to go out to tender, time to find the right contractor. All of that will take time, which is why we've got the year timeline. But they're saying that it's potential that, say, it would take 9 months instead of 12, but to move it up by that 3 months, we'll have a shift. And so I don't think it's so much a staging issue. The stage one would just still be later down in the year, but
Okay.
at least that's what I've understood.
The motion to,
So I've got another question, another one, but then, I suggest.
I will wait till the end of the anything that arises at the same time.
Yes, sounds good. Councillor Eden, did you have another question?
Just about the Kalonga sporting facility. This doesn't have a date. It's kind of a bit vague. Project group progressing with environmental assessments and design consultation in preparation to release the construction teams. Clearly work's going on, but then as a on-site commencement date. And it does only say approx. So if there's one there, I wouldn't hold you to the date, but it just says not applicable.
We can add that in.
Have we got any idea from the start? I mean, it would appear not to be, it would appear not to be in this calendar year, right? Sorry, this financial year.
Well, what we're sort of going into the process of procurement phase for this one too, so we've got to go to the market with our expectations of what we need to come back with it. It's waiting for that feedback from the market on time.
So again, for the next meeting, for the next meeting, you probably have a day. That's fine, maybe. That's my question.
Questions from any councillors? Do I have a motion?
I move the recommendation with the addition that a further report be brought back to the next committee meeting, setting out what options might be available in order to expedite the
Olivia, Point six. I'll invite Director Boris Bolgoff to add anything, and then I have a motion to move.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This has been requested back through Councillor time ago.
1992.
All these things come for those who wait.
Like as can be seen, there's a fair bit of work that's been done by the team, which is encouraging. It has been a long time coming. It is a complex matter in relation to access way and ownership, and also Crown lands associated in this access way. The report identifies a pathway that will be progressed to ultimately formalise that access way into a public code. For you and back to the chair.
I would just move a motion, which is the recommendation with an addition that I've already provided to the staff. And then happy to have a discussion. Seconder.
And that's in relation to the cause. It might be easier if I move the motion and then you do that one.
I've already made the motion, but you can second it.
Just quite difficult to do it that way.
Either or, if you what's on the screen, I think recommend.
1 and 2 is a staff rep,
I'll second it.
and then the
Let's
third
get
one.
going.
Second, yeah, so.
Here is
And
So in relation to the
Yeah.
third that I've added, as we are now looking to create the road, I suppose, at the bottom, the current road, as it's known as Monasteer Road, would be kind of contained within the COS reserve that's behind it. And so I have a proposal to see if we can make that road reserve COS and get a report back on that.
I have no difficulty with making that non-existent road on land. The legal road, which is not a road, but just in relation to, I'll like to move an amendment to item 1, wording of which I've discussed with the director.
and the civic support staff have that ready, and we can see if the mover also is okay to accept that within.
Yes, happy to accept that as we
Sorry, one,
discussed.
4 should actually replace 1, I think,
That's correct.
in addition.
Second, I'm happy, but I'm happy also to Councillor Neil to take over a seconder if you'd like to.
I just want to say thank you very much for the progress you have made. I may seem a bit flippant saying it's been since 1992, but of course you weren't responsible. You're probably in high school at that time.
Thank you.
But it really is an incredibly complex matter, but it's also a matter of great distress and strain for the people who live in that area. It's been an ongoing problem for literally decades. So to see any progress made and I think substantial progress being made by the director with this team is very much appreciated. Thank you, and hopefully we'll progress it.
Councillor Neal, do you want to be recorded as the second?
Yes, thank you.
I'll withdraw a seconder.
Clarify, Chair. So option C, are you referring to the attached advice?
Yes.
Okay, do we need to sort of somehow specify that? Because I don't think there is an option C in the report as such, is there, or did
I
I?
think that's why
Yeah.
the additional wording was added to clarify what C means.
Yeah, but anybody reading this or reading the report may not see.
It says which is gazetted. It's gazettal of Monastery
Okay.
Road along the
Alright.
current access way and manage it as a public road.
Yeah.
That's actually what the recommendation is.
Yeah,
Okay, if you think that
correct.
meets the requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks.
Is there any further, yep, Director?
Sorry, Madam Chair. Just to make it easier, when we go to council, if the committees all agreed, and I certainly have no issues with 1.3, but it's just part of my plan. So change that to, as it says, that the committee notes that, and then remove, recommends to council and
The staff
staff
Yeah.
report. So I'm happy to make that a little bit easier. It's confusing when we try and adopt this.
Do we need to sort of get staff to provide advice? Because isn't it just a resolution that we want staff to proceed down that path? I mean, that's what staff indicated
If you delete it,
as an option.
so we've got the note at the top.
So could we change 3 just to basically recommend that we proceed down that path? I'm assuming we don't want to, is there a timing issue in terms of that land becoming part of COS and all the other work needing to be done beforehand? Or is that not an issue?
All. If there's anything that is, that we're unaware of in relation to the process, and it may be illegal if we adopt to go down that pathway. It's very clear that the intention is that way, and that's the way that I'm steering the outcome. So that's why the report provides advice regarding that specific thing.
But could it just be that we get a report back if there's any issues rather than just get on with it?
I think declaration of a road has great complexity.
There is a whole re-gazette and
Removing it as a road, making it a road.
I can't.
Yep, sure.
Any further discussion on this? Oh, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. And now to 1.8, as 1.7 was moved on block. I believe there is a presentation on this.
That was right. Madam Chair, this was requested last meeting. I've got Joe Spare to go through the presentation just on the status of the project. So I'll pass over to Mr. Spare.
Thanks, Boris. Oh, sorry. So I'm here today. I'm giving you an update on, a project that we're really excited about, proud of, and be happy to see the end of, but in a positive way. It's part of our Tuggerah Lakes Loop. It's one of our regional shared paths, and it's the final stage in what has been a really positive project for us. Let's step into it. Oh, I've got it. I'm just going to take you through very high level. Feel free to ask questions as we go. You'll see a few graphics. In the graphic, what you can see is the solid yellow line being the existing path we've constructed to date. The dotted line in the distance there is the final stage, and the scope of the final stage is shown in that little inset above. This one has been, from the very first day of amalgamation, this was a strong community advocacy piece, strong ministerial advocacy piece. It's been successful in getting grant fundings for some of those earlier stages, and once we've done our bike plan, we've been successful in unlocking some developer contribution funding to see the ongoing delivery of it. Stage 5 has been through a couple of rounds of consultation. I'm going to take you through that as we step through this presentation. The original consultation was around some route optioneering. Based on that, we ultimately did resolve to proceed with what was route option C, and I think slide 3, when we get to it, will show you those various route options. Some way down the path, like I think we was in a stage of delivering stage 3. By that point in time, grant funding was made available for stage 5, and specifically the delivery of option A, stage 5, which is effectively the foreshore, stays on the foreshore all the way for stage 5. We went away and did some work around that stage, that particular option A, just to really test the technical feasibility of it before we'd accept any funding. We had to go back and redo our estimate because there'd been some time from that original preliminary stage to when we wanted to accept, and ultimately went to council to gain a resolution to endorse changing from preferred option C to option A. And what we've recently done is gone out with a second round of consultation focused on the concept that we've developed for that option A route, to gain feedback from the public and start to work through some of the concerns, identify some of the opportunities. Slide. A little more context. You can just see that flow from us doing our bike plans, feeding the section 712, which unlocks some funding. You can see a little graphic there, which was the point where the media announcement was for the 1.5 million, and the council resolution where we resolved to proceed in 2023 with that option A.
Who are the 3 people there? Is that Emma McBride or the others?
Yeah, it's Emma McBride. It's who's the Wyoming MP? I should know that off the top of my head. Harris. Yeah. I'm not sure of the last one. So yes, this is one of our regional priorities, a strategic priority. It really is going to, if you've been on this foreshore, it's really beautiful. Before I'd been there, I knew nothing about it. I ride Tuggerah Lakes, so frequently, but I do ride Tuggerah Lakes every now and then. This is a little detour that I love doing because it's magic. This last link would be spectacular. It will be the last link for now. There is ultimately longer term plans to loop the lake and to tie back into town. No current planning or work in that space. And it will see us deliver on that 712 commitment, the grant funding commitment, the council resolution and the op plan commitments. And we do like delivering on what we're saying. This is just a high level of the 2020 consultation. And we went out with some concept plans for stage, I think it was 1 and 2 or 1 to 4, and we had some more work done around 2 and 3 at that point in time. So it was consultation focused on those designs, and then we asked the community for feedback on some route optioneering here. And you can see a variety of options ranging from stay on the road the whole way, Bosley Avenue, various routes that wind through the streets, access different parts of the foreshore. Now, option A is the red option, which is not great, not really visible there.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so option A is this, it's effectively.
You've also got it in your pick.
Foreshore, that was option A. The highlighted option C is the green one, and that was a bit of a balance between the budget required to deliver as well as maximising that foreshore access, because that was the really strong thing from the feedback. Now, when we went out, we did ask in a fairly simplistic manner, what was the preferred option? We didn't ask them to rank their options or, provide second options, or just what would you prefer to? What we got was an overwhelming 87% saying option A. Option E only got 2%, but that's because, we didn't ask for what your second and your third category options were. What we did is dig into that feedback and go, why is option A the priority? It was about that foreshore access. And so then we ended up selecting option C because it gave the most foreshore access. I can tell you even at that point in time, Boris was already talking to the the politicians, you know, looking for additional funding, seeing where there was opportunities. Option C was the selection. Really deep consultation campaign. You know, we had hits all over the place. We had social pinpointing for the first time, which was really fun. Did lots of drop-in sessions, you know, lots of engagement. And then we come to the current round of consultation, which at the time that I tabled this plan, this presentation, we still hadn't got the final consultation report. We do have the final consultation report now. The numbers actually didn't change. It must have been before the report was finalised, but the period closed. We got around 270 submissions from interested parties. We did drop-in sessions, got reasonable attendance at the drop-in sessions, but some feedback. Lots of website visits, so there was a lot of interest, if not as many submissions. Overwhelmingly, the feedback was the same. We had 80% supporting the project. It was 79% back in 2019, so it's about the same volume in support. And we'll go into the next one. I'm going to show you, I've sort of stitched together the concept, so we'll see the whole concept on the screen. And I'll talk to some of the feedback which is reflected in the next slide.
Sorry, I know you interrupt. Sorry about that. You're talking about the really positive consultation, but I'm getting petitions and emails that are quite opposed to elements of this. So did that not come through, or?
Yeah, it did. Whenever I've done foreshore pathways, there's some very predictable feedback, which is those private property owners that live on the foreshore that effectively had sole access to it, generally very concerned, completely understandably concerned about, hey, what's going to happen here? Are you going to, you know, disrupt what they see as a beautiful location? Are we going to have people looking in my back window? There's always concerns about security. That's a given. Every foreshore project I do also had the whole environmental challenge, and that comes through. Lots of feedback around the impact on quite excited things, depending on the extent of what work that we do. There's feedback around the number of trees that we remove and minimise the amount of removal. There's feedback around we don't want to see turf, we want to see natural landscape, not turf. And it's obviously the heritage values and the opportunities to promote some of that came through the environmental trip. I'll show you when I get to the concept. What I've got is a whole heap of boxes explaining what the feedback was, and it might make it a little bit more understanding. That's what it looks like, and that's obviously stitched together. We went out with, you know, old school, had big A1s, across tables, got the community to come in and touch and feel, had the same information available. I'll just work my way from one end to the other, and I'll talk about that feedback and what we've heard. And where some of those engineering challenges, opportunities might be. So at the top is you can see an existing path connecting through onto Palmer Street. That's the extent of currently stage 4. So we're going to be connecting on with an at-grade. The grey is an at-grade concrete shared path. That's just a standard shared path for us. Meandering through what is an existing track along that foreshore at the moment. Now, we are starting to get down to that, you know, literal curve here, curve there, to try and minimise the impact, minimise the footprint, retain as many trees as possible. Once we get around the first headland here, or the first point here, there was plenty of feedback around slope instabilities. This is a fairly steep foreshore along parts of that. And the feedback to the community around that one was, yeah, we're on it, we're aware of it. We can mitigate the impact. We 100% will be doing works in order to stabilise the slope so the shared path itself is safe and doesn't put anyone at risk. Doing those works in a way that will not worsen or impact what the properties are currently have at their disposal. What we had to be clear on, but is some of these slope instabilities are related to the property, are outside the extent. We won't touch it, we won't make it worse. Necessarily going to go and fix every frontage that every property has. That makes sense? Quite a bit of feedback around that, particularly on the corner there and around the corners here is where your slope instabilities are. We'll do everything possible, we'll do everything we need to stabilise for the shared path. We will not make anything worse for the private property owners. In some cases, they'll get a benefit because the works we are going to do will provide some stability and benefit to their property.
Could you try and explain, sorry to cut in, just with that stabilisation? Last week I met with some people out at Rocky Point and they said they were worried about the impact of concrete in the area. Is that part of the stabilisation or is that another thing you were doing? So the question would be, what's the stabilisation going to look like?
Yeah.
And then are we talking about like natural solutions or what can you provide some response to?
Yeah, I can't give you the detail until we sort of get into that detailed design phase, finalise the alignments, know what we need to deal with. We'll look to design this in a way that means we have to do the minimum stabilisation possible, both from a cost and a, I guess, environmental impact point of view. When we do slope stability, our first point of call is natural treatment. So we'd be looking at batter slopes or reinforced soil nails and those sort of treatments initially. But then you go up that hierarchy depending on the constraint of the location of what we need to do. It might involve some like a sandstone log, dwarf wall along one side. That might be all it needs in certain locations. In some locations, it might need something more structural, and that will come out in the detailed design space. But we'll start with the intent of making this a natural treatment. We'll progress through a structural treatment if we need to, and we'll look to make that as natural looking as possible, supported by whatever sort of plantings or landscaping we can to soften and make sure it blends in.
Yeah. And just one other question with that. When I went out there and walked around Rocky Point with the people that I met with, there's a section on the rock shelf that's got shotcrete over it. They said there was asbestos there and it was covered in concrete.
Yeah.
Would that section there be touched or is that intended to be left alone as part of this and looked at later? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it, and we've spoken. It wasn't something I was involved with. Something I believe council was involved with. We've spoken with our environmental officers around that. Currently, our alignments it's somewhere around here.
Yeah.
Currently, our alignments are clear of it, and we may not touch it at all. It's not my area of expertise, asbestos treatment or management. I do know, however, as soon as we touch it, we're obliged to remediate and do further works. At this stage, it's not actually in scope for us to touch that at all.
Okay, so that would delay in that part because there was some things through that section. But it looks like from the map you've got there, it's going around the water.
Yeah, just that little strip as you go around the corner actually has some fairly significant vegetation through there. Not sort of vegetation we can pick a line through. So as we come around the corner, we are currently proposing a boardwalk. What you can see here in the dotted line is alternate routes we're investigating based on the feedback we got from staff, from the community. And that was in reflection of environmental concerns. The more boardwalk we put in, the more we do have to impact on that seabed and flora and fauna. But also, the other consistent bit of feedback was around access to the. Now we've got a number of properties around there that use that to launch kayaks or paddleboards or whatever it might be. So if we can pull this back, and it looks like there is a fairly reasonable alignment for us to get a shared path along that. Concrete along here, still going to need a little leg of boardwalk there in order to stay away from that vegetation. But by doing that, what we'll do is create an access point for these guys to be able to just walk straight into the water with their craft like they currently do without being impeded by a boardwalk at whatever height it might be.
And just where it's going out along the water there, one of the things that they've put to me as well, there's people that I spoke to, they're saying that there's seahorses and other species in there that would be impacted. Have we got any insight into that? Have we looked at that? Have we got any studies on that or anything?
Not yet. So what we've done is our due diligence around, so internal due diligence around the environmental assessment. We've engaged with our experts. So we've got advice internally and externally. We don't do the detailed environmental assessment until we've got a locked alignment. That's because those assessments are specific to the alignment in the project. So if we do it and then find that, no, we're going to deviate this way or go a different way, we have to go back and pay for it again. So what we've done, we've got geotech consultants, heritage assessment consultants and environmental consultants now engaged. So we are getting that information. Don't have the detail on exactly what's in there, what the extent of impact, whatever.
That'll come later is basically.
That's right. That'll come out through. And it was something that came out continually. Like this community out here loves their natural environment. Came through really strong, loud and clear. And we don't want to see a concrete, playground. We don't want to see you clear it and turf it. I said we don't want to see turf at all. plan it out, make it natural, make it tie into the vegetation that we have in the area and build upon the existing vegetation that's there. So that potentially a modified alignment along here, part mitigate environmental impacts, part to provide access through. Some fairly significant slope stability issues around these front ends, which is why what you can currently see here involves, there is actually a retaining wall around there already, I believe constructed by a former Wyoming council. Fairly low level.
With your mate. I didn't build it.
We're not blaming anyone.
What we're looking is to do something similar around there. Now, what our consultant's done is drawn a very perfect curve around there. The final design will look to really minimise the extent of any of that. It'll likely just tie into what the existing wall around there. What that allows us to do is to stay away from that slope and prevent any sort of impact. We can plant out that area and help stabilise that naturally as we go around. When we get around here, the feedback was started to become around, oh, that's really close to my rear boundary. Can we adjust the alignment? As I said, I've done a heap of foreshore projects. There's always that feedback, hey, that's too close, or I'm not going to be able to have security. Almost to a T, every time we do these projects, afterwards, these guys who were really concerned early on, love it, become some of the biggest promoters and advocates for these. And that's because, you know, while we are encouraging foot traffic, it's not a CBD level of foot traffic. It's not, you know, crowds out your front of your property all the time. And while we are creating a path that provides access around, you can already get around. Now, in the current state, you get around there, there's no chance anyone sees what you're doing. Once we've got a path there, what you do is you actually create a layer of security, because there's a chance that someone's going to come along that path and go, hey, what are you doing? And so what we tend to find, and I'm only connecting dots, but what we do, I've done a number of these projects, and it's always significant opposition, and not everyone loves it, but you do actually get some positive feedback, and that's rare. That's a big.
Certainly what happened for the stages 1 to 4 when we had a bit of objections, but yeah, can we try and keep it fairly high level, because that's a fair bit of detail for this group.
While we're on a break, I'll just get Councillor Castles to ask what she needs to.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Can I just, sorry, I'm just, I'm obviously can't quite see exactly where we are going around the pathway here, but I'm just looking at the, and I realise it says that it's indicative, the extent of reclamation. Now with that reclamation, because again, that's been something that people in the community have spoken to me about, and they're concerned about how much that's going to actually, I guess, impact on the sort of natural type of shoreline and how that's actually going to work. You know, because in general, I think keeping a natural shoreline is probably the ideal, but clearly with the reclamation that changes. Can you give us any insight into the pluses and minuses of that kind of reclamation?
Yep, and before I do, I will just clarify, there is already a retaining wall along that edge. There has already been a level of reclamation and formalisation. It's not a natural fringe along that edge. I guess we looked at various options around here. In some of the earlier versions, we actually have boardwalks running right around that frontage. Stay away from it altogether. Because once we start getting back in, there's not a whole lot of land before you're right up under that slope, and you're going to have to do some fairly significant retaining to be able to fit your shared path in, plus removal of vegetation. So the thought process was really around looking to minimise those hard engineering solutions. So, you know, let's not have retaining walls right along that frontage. Boardwalks, while they can be beautiful, are expensive to maintain and replace. If we do the reclamation in a way that, you know, it's not going to be significantly different to what's there right now. It just might need to be extended slightly so we can fit our regional shared path within.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have to play with it, like you're not back in the water replacing it in 50 years' time like you would with a boardwalk, a raised boardwalk over the water.
Okay.
So it's really just balancing the pros and cons of, you know, the amount of impact we need to do, the amount of hard engineering solution we do.
Yeah,
Um,
thank,
So whip through, you've got a fairly boggy section through here. We got a lot of feedback around drainage and making sure that we were considering that. Then we pull it away from our boundary lines, and absolutely we're already looking at some options. We're talking with environmental area around salt marsh regeneration they did here to see whether perhaps we can deviate down through here. We need to accommodate the existing access in, and there's going to need to be some drainage improvements there. The drainage pipe there at the moment actually runs back towards the road, which sort of defeats the point. So we'll need to do some work there. This leg along here is currently all boardwalks, and that was originally we were looking at alignments trying to meander through the wetland forest adjacent. Really difficult. Couldn't find routes that, one, were not going to be soaking wet and underwater, and two, didn't involve some fairly significant removals of vegetation. So this is currently raised boardwalk all the way through. We're going to look at a connection back into the street, a bit of a viewing platform. We then wind through to the oval. This is Don Small Oval. Originally, we'd hoped to go around here, and that's what's shown on some of those earlier concepts. What we found after engaging with our sport and rec people is that's not preferred. They don't want people wandering all the way around. There is some utility constraints. There's also some fairly significant heritage constraints if we go around that side. So we're currently going across the top. We then tie back along the car park that has recently been upgraded there, and effectively finish the work at the amenities building, which is off here. Lastly, recent feedback from the public and then engaging with open space. What they've indicated is that there is a warrant for consideration of a net or at least a barrier protecting the public as they walk around that oval. That's something we're investigating right now. Looking likely it'll be scoped into the project as a requirement.
Are you able to show on that map where option A went? Like, what's the difference
Do
between?
you have a pointer that I can? Yeah.
I'm not gonna get you a rule or something.
I feel like it should.
Use your finger.
There it is. Awesome. All right, option A, sorry, option C, preferred option C.
Oh, right, okay.
Down the road, came up and down, did a series of switchbacks to get down to the foreshore. That was option D. This one came down. Oh, yeah, there we go. It basically would have picked up the road there, come down the road, down the road, down the road, would have had a fairly significant ramp down. The height differential from there to there is quite significant, and then was effectively the same project.
And
What
so,
option A is opened up is that extent foreshore all the way around.
yeah.
So yeah, that's what we get from here to here, the difference between A and C.
So the people that are really concerned now that we're doing a different option, do you, I know you've just outlined it, but do you understand it or know why that particular area that is different is so significant? Like, what's the concern there? I mean, I'm getting salt marsh, seagrass, threat species, all that kind of stuff. Is there other issues that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. No, it's similar foreshore to the rest of it. And, you know, all those issues are genuine environmental constraints that we need to work within. And it's not something new. We do these sort of things quite regularly. The long-term impact of what we're proposing here is virtually negligible. In the short term, we mitigate those impacts through smart design, through appropriate construction techniques. There's really nothing different between here and here that isn't along, you know, that segment from there to there. Any other part of it.
Look, I think there's slightly different perspectives about what's negligible in terms of threatened species and endangered ecological communities and things like that. But don't need to argue the point right here. And I guess where I'd like to go, sorry, Director, I know you're going to say something, but I'd really like, as part of the resolution, that there be an opportunity for a site visit between now and the council meeting with staff, just to get an understanding of that path, if that's possible.
Yeah, I was just trying to get back to Chair.
Yeah, do you want to comment on the site visit?
Look, that would be a matter for this committee if they're like, I don't know, where is a good place to see some of this in relation to, I'm not quite sure what part of, you know, the length of it all.
You need your gumboots for all of it.
That's right.
That's a few K and you're going to need your gumboots on if we're going to do the full extent. But you can quite easily get it from here and wander through the existing track to this point. I learned that used to be a beach. I used to sunbake out there and do all sorts of stuff, go back 15 years. But there is a fairly well-worn path through to there. You are going to be picking pretty hard lines through there. The other point you can access is obviously from down to the ends, the roads and see. There is tracks through the wetland as well. You can get all the way through.
That road just there, there's a path, I think, just, yeah, where you're pointing just down there to that bit, there's a
Yep.
path there that I've been on. I think further down where you mentioned it's very steep.
Yeah.
And you'd really get an idea of how steep it is if people went out there.
That'd be your point. Access through to there. You've got to, access down. A little bit of traction along this side. You've got a viewpoint here, and then you've got a viewpoint here. I think there might be I don't think that's reversible little lane there.
I'm just trying to understand what the purpose of the site visit achieved. Look, have a look. Yeah, well, you guys can certainly have a look any time in relation to information that's provided. It's quite comprehensive what Jay has provided in this update. Option A is a council resolution. If this, I'll say, if this committee is looking at changing, or considering, the option C and those sorts of things, that's something that would delay the project probably in the order of a couple of years.
So Chair, just to clarify, Director's not willing to provide a staff member to do a site visit.
Sorry?
You're not willing to provide a staff member to do a site visit.
If that's what the committee, resolve. Yeah.
For my
Chair-
part,
I'm just saying what the benefit.
yeah, for my part, I'm not considering changing to C. I would like to understand what the issues are around A and whether there's any way of solving some of them.
And I'm not
Okay.
necessarily considering it either, but I'd like to see it on the ground to understand what those issues are as well.
Looking back at the path, I have a question on not the boardwalk section, but the path section between the two boardwalks. Everyone knows that I'm quite invested in flood mitigation, and that is a particularly flood area. What is the kind of design specs that you guys would be proposing in order to ensure that that section of path is not just completely flooded every single time, which means that people have to go off the beaten track onto people's properties?
Are you talking about the concrete segment or the boardwalk?
Yes, the concrete section.
Yeah, it's really about picking the alignment, ensuring that we've got the right sort of crossfall on those pathways. So you're never going to make these places completely moisture free, but you can design it in a way that it doesn't pool and pond on the pathway and it becomes your desire line. There's similar pathways along Kingcumber foreshore between Kingcumber and Davistown, which is very boggy, low-lying areas, and quite often, stains and dribbles across it. So we'll manage it with smart design. We will put a little bit of drainage in, and we've learned some lessons on stages 1 to 4, where some of the small, we basically put almost downpipe size piping in various locations. Works great, locked almost instantly. So there'll be some tweaks on the way we do that drainage in various locations. The public gave us great feedback about the points that are going to cause us real problems. So, we've been able to, we'll focus our consultant designers in on that and come up with solutions. But really it's about picking the right alignment so you're staying free, crossfall, drainage, and boardwalks. Like a big part of doing that work is there's nothing we could do to get that one at a level and out because it's so flat through that forest. No matter what we did, it was going to be boggy. It was going to be potentially inundated.
Thank you. Any other questions? Not, do we have a motion?
I'll move the recommended.
Seconder? Is that right?
An amendment.
Didn't get that.
Councillor Eaton moves the staff recommendation, councillor Wright seconds, councillor Smith has an amendment.
Which is just to part B that, that a site visit be arranged for next Tuesday for interested councillors. Obviously it's not going to get up, but I'll put it on there anyway.
I accept it.
Is that feasible for your staff?
It's up on Tuesday.
After Tuesday.
Oh, I bring a councillor day. I thought that'd be easier for councillors.
The briefing's on Tuesday.
Yeah, not.
What time does the? other
3:30,
I think. Starting at.
Wait,
Why don't you just take out the date at a convenient date or something like that?
yeah, sure. I mean, I do want to get it done before this comes to council meeting because I don't, as I was saying, I don't want to delay it any further, but,
But the briefing's not till 3:30, so you could do if there was staff available.
but we might get bogged by the sounds of it. I'll be swimming for our life. Apparently.
I mean, it could be weather dependent too, like it's very, parts of that are very tough, like it's rock shelf and.
We just made it, so it has to be before the next council meeting. Boris is, well, Director Bogoff's facial expression isn't.
Look, 12, yeah, I've got one slotted between 12:30 and 1:30 on Tuesday. About my staff availability for the 19th.
They're flexible.
But
I'll say 12:30.
He's very, he's only free for 1
I'm
hour.
not available.
Did you say 12:30 to
We
1:30?
need the director in.
12:30 to 1:30.
Yeah, I'm available if that's what you're interested in. An alternate idea might be that we could fly it and get drone footage. Right back to the group.
I think
I don't think
This
that's
is-
spending much.
probably some questions that, you know, I think.
Get Google Earth for that.
So I'm putting that up to the group. That's a time that's available.
Not here, but I mean, I've been there before.
Not available. Stay at the
I go,
clock time.
so I'll just end up sitting here.
What time did you say?
You've been there before too. haven't you?
Another time, what day?
If you could, it'd be better.
Sounds like
That's the
you've
only
only got-
time that I've got available.
Sounds like you've only got 2 members at the most.
Oh, but I think it should be available to other councillors. This goes to a council meeting, not just for this committee. And it's still probably only going to be 2, but
I mean, I'm happy with that, but the way it is now.
I mean, is there any time between now and the ordinary council meeting on whatever date that is? I mean, that's what I'm saying is I'd like to go and see it. I'd like to understand. And I'm not trying to deliberately delay it from the council meetings.
The only other time be that Thursday to get around from 3 to 4.
Yeah, that might. Thursday, 3 to 4.
This Thursday, the 14th,
The 21st.
the 21st, yeah, that should be fine.
That matters.
Leave it the way it is. Work it out fine.
The Tuesday thing, Tuesday.
2 for Tuesday, well, it's
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
I'm happy to go look in my own time on a weekend or something after work. That's fine.
all right. So I'm happy to have that. Are you happy to have that? Second, councillor Wright?
No, 12:30 to 1:30.
We'll accept that into the.
Yeah.
Can't go either side of the.
Yeah, it's work day.
So then, what's the? Got those two slots available.
Yeah, if we move that motion, then we can pick the time based on who wants to go and when.
Who's available with? Yeah.
So what's the options? Sorry.
I
It's
think the
the
idea is to move it as a general motion.
Okay, all right, thank you.
other 12:30 to 1:30 on Tuesday. Or 3 to 4 on.
It actually doesn't suit me
Thursday.
anyway. I just realised, but anyway.
I can only do Tuesday.
Okay, so we'll
Be available.
put the motion.
I would just speak to it very briefly if I could, Madam Chair. And look, my experience with these shared pathways, cycleways around the lakes is, yes, you always get a bit of objection from the people who are backing onto the cycleway. But after a year or two, they love it. And I'm confident this will be the case as well here. I'm looking forward to, that extension. It'll be a great facility. Well done.
Nothing else? Put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
A hand? Councillor Neil?
Yep, I had my hand.
I can't see. Unanimous? And I now declare that the meeting is closed at 6:03.
Oh, you failed. It is by 5:37.
Well, I think we're deciding too much on what time we should meet. The next meeting will be on the 14th of October. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks to the chair.
You are.